Lasers.
The still unfolding tragedy in western India after the worst earthquake in 50 years, and the race to reach victims buried in debris.
There's every hope that there are several people alive under the rubble still.
Claims of progress, but no deal as the Middle East peace talks wrap up. The on-again, off-again strike against America's largest rail carrier. And what the man who has taken on 9 U.S. presidents has to say about number 10.
Castro really doesn't expect there to be any improvement in U.S.-Cuban relations as long as George Bush is president.
From NBC News World Headquarters in New York, this is NBC Nightly News, reported by John Siegenthaler.
Good evening, everyone. The people of India are still reeling tonight from the most powerful earthquake in that country in half a century. The 7.9 magnitude quake flattened buildings, destroyed towns, and buried thousands of people on Friday. While the frantic search for survivors goes on, officials now say the death toll could reach 15,000. The hardest hit area is about 350 miles northwest of Bombay, near the India-Pakistan border. NBC's Kiko Itasaka has the story.
This is ground zero, the epicenter of the quake. Entire villages leveled. The city of Bhuj, just 15 miles from the epicenter, is devastated. More than 30,000 buildings have collapsed already or appear close to toppling. Rescue workers still have not given up trying to find survivors. 30 hours after the quake hit, this woman was rescued. Moments later, her mother was saved as well. But many lives were lost, as they always are when earthquakes strike poor areas of the world, because buildings were badly constructed.
Often they are just put together with a minimal amount of steel reinforcement in the concrete, and that is usually not sufficient.
Yesterday was a public holiday, but at the Sacred Flower Middle School, a conscientious science teacher had called in around 30 students for a special project. Only 4 survived. The parents of the others have given up hope. Similar stories from all over the region. At another school, 350 children are feared dead. The Indian Air Force is mounting its largest ever rescue operations, flying in tents, blankets, and other supplies. With over 14,000 injured, hospitals and clinics are overwhelmed by patients. The dead are consigned to makeshift morgues. Already there is concern about the potential for epidemics. Aid workers say their first priority is clear.
Trying to provide emergency water supply, because really that is one of the killers of major disasters. Disease can spread very, very quickly.
International support is on its way from Germany and England, with more to follow. The challenge, getting aid quickly to the worst-hit areas where vulnerable survivors have literally had their world turned upside down. As one of them said, nothing left between the sky and earth anymore. Kiko Itasaka, NBC News.
To the Middle East now, and the peace talks, which are winding down without a deal. But as NBC's Donna Friesen reports, both sides said today they are still searching for a solution.
Israeli and Palestinian negotiators agreed on one thing tonight. They failed. No peace agreement, but they claim substantial progress.
We have had the most fruitful, constructive, profound negotiations ever to be held since this phase in the peace process started.
Both sides say they've rebuilt trust lost during the last few months of violence.
We will continue with this process as much as the Israeli side are interesting to continue.
Throughout the week-long talks, there were smiles and signs of goodwill, what both sides describe as a spirit of hope. On the table, all the make-or-break issues: control of Jerusalem, security, borders, and the right of return for Palestinian refugees. Enough progress made, both sides say, to keep talking after the Israeli elections on February 6th.
We will be in a position that once the negotiations are resumed, the chances for reaching a final deal are very, very high indeed.
But talks will resume only if Prime Minister Ehud Barak is re-elected, and so far he's running far behind his opponent, hardliner Ariel Sharon, who says he will not accept any agreement reached in the interim. The Palestinians, though, say whoever wins the election will be under enormous pressure to respect the progress made this week.
If they will not respect, then I think they will be condemned by the world.
Efforts are now underway to arrange a summit meeting this week in Sweden between Yasser Arafat and Ehud Barak, a final chance to reach a peace deal before the Israeli election. Donna Friesen, NBC News, Taba, Egypt.
Federal agents searching for the remains of missing atheist Madeleine Murray O'Hare said tonight they found what appear to be human bones on a ranch in a remote part of South Texas. The bones reportedly show signs of being buried. O'Hare and two of her relatives have been missing since 1995. During the 1960s, she led successful court battles to have prayer and Bible reading banned in public schools. When O'Hare dropped out of sight, $500,000 worth of gold coins from one of her organizations also disappeared. When NBC Nightly News continues in a moment, the union problems threatening to derail Union Pacific. And later, in focus, Roe versus Wade plus 28 years.
She's always there when you need her.
I'm really very proud of what my daughter has done for herself.
She's kind. She's funny. I really enjoy her friendship.
She's got a great future ahead of her. She'll do well.
ITT Technical Institute. Education for the future. To find out more, call 1-800-ITT-TECH or visit us on the web.
Wow, Francesco Rinaldi! Hey, can I have a taste? Okay, just one bite.
Francesco Rinaldi pasta sauce. Once you taste it, you can't stop enjoying it.
Next time, I'm having ravioli.
Francesco Rinaldi, made by Italians, enjoyed by everyone.
Two lovers in a skier's paradise. Then a tragedy on the slopes changed everything. Accident or crime? A Dateline Court TV exclusive. Tuesday.
Monday.
Hang in there, man.
An all-new Third Watch.
Turn in your shield and ID. You're suspended.
A good cop accused.
City's all over him.
Of corruption.
I didn't do anything wrong, and I'm not making a deal.
I wonder who's next, huh?
All-new Third Watch. Monday on NBC.
A brief scare today for Union Pacific Corporation, the railroad company which hauls freight all over the country. For a few hours overnight, the people who run those trains went out on strike. Here's NBC's Hillary Lane.
Just after midnight in Dallas and elsewhere, 8,000 locomotive engineers walked off the job and onto the picket line. A battle of iron wills on the iron road. The Brotherhood of Locomotive Engineers and Union Pacific, the nation's largest railroad, at loggerheads over workers' personal days. Within 3 hours, a federal judge had ordered them back to work. And by mid-afternoon, the court had upheld a temporary restraining order, keeping them on the job until a hearing on February 7th. Union Pacific said it had no warning the strike was coming. The engineers say they had no warning the railroad was changing what qualifies as personal leave, and the changes violate the Railway Labor Act. A strike by the engineers could have a major economic impact. If other unions honor the picket lines, the entire system might have to shut down. Union Pacific services 2/3 of the country, 23 states, from the tip of Texas to the Canadian border, from the West Coast to Tennessee. A strike would not affect passenger service, but could severely disrupt the delivery of chemicals, coal, food, autos, and auto parts.
Virtually everything, some part of the chain moves by rail, and so it's just critical not to shut that down.
Union Pacific and the Engineers Union are next scheduled to talk on Tuesday and Wednesday. Tonight, new pressure to get negotiations on the right track. Hillary Lane, NBC News.
Just 1 week old, the Bush administration has already been the target of Fidel Castro's sharp tongue. As NBC's John Palmer reports, it's a familiar theme of U.S.-Cuban relations.
500,000 Cubans today attended a rally protesting U.S. policy toward their country. Fidel Castro, who has outlasted 9 American presidents, took aim at his 10th today, saying George W. Bush came to power in what he called an irregular manner, and said his administration has links to what he called the Cuban Mafia, a reference to anti-Castro Cuban Americans. Nevertheless, the 74-year-old dictator said he would reserve judgment and not cast the first stone. Castro's speech comes a day after the State Department issued its first criticism of Cuba since President Bush took office, dismissing as ludicrous Havana's charge that 2 Czech citizens jailed on the island are U.S. spies.
The Cuban government's continued detention of the 2 visitors provides graphic proof of why it is important to continue to focus international attention on human rights in Cuba.
The United States, which has maintained an economic embargo of Cuba for 40 years, just recently approved a few shipments of food and medicine. Now, many expect Congress to push for more exceptions to the embargo.
Last year, Congress voted to lift the travel ban to Cuba, although that didn't become law. I think that issue will be on the legislative agenda again.
White House aides said today President Bush's position is clear. He does not support any easing of the sanctions unless and until Castro frees all political prisoners, allows freedom of expression, and commits himself to free elections. John Palmer, NBC News at the White House.
When NBC Nightly News continues, a domestic policy position the president clearly expressed this week, his opposition to abortion.
They say size doesn't matter, but this Thursday it does. With supersized episodes of Friends with 10 extra minutes.
This is totally different.
With guest stars like Jason Alexander and Susan Sarandon, plus more than a few surprises. Whoa. Then, after a supersized Friends...
More Jennifer Aniston? I can get behind that.
Special live editions of Saturday Night Live. Hey, you never know who will turn up. And it's Will and Grace with a guest appearance by Ellen DeGeneres as a nun.
That would be weird, wouldn't it?
And Just Shoot Me's got Pamela Anderson and Xena. What a month of must-see TV. Supersized Friends, live editions of SNL, Will and Grace, and Just Shoot Me.
It's all good.
Starting Thursday on NBC.
It's coming. The first of 4 all-new episodes.
Rescue's bringing in multiple victims of a basement fire.
It has no mercy. Dozens of victims. 1 ER. And it's only his first day back. All new ER, Thursday on NBC.
Sunday, the new vice president and the one who narrowly missed, Dick Cheney and Joe Lieberman on the Bush agenda. If it's Sunday, it's Meet the Press.
The smart money, investing after 50. NBC Nightly News next week.
In focus this evening, American attitudes on abortion. NBC's Virginia Cha has our report.
It's been 28 years since the U.S. Supreme Court's 7-2 decision upholding a woman's legal right to an abortion. The written opinion said that freedom of personal choice in matters of marriage and family life is one of the liberties protected by the Due Process Clause of the 14th Amendment, and added the right asserted by Jane Roe is embraced within the personal liberty protected by the Due Process Clause. Despite that ruling, over the years, abortion battles have continued in the streets and at both ends of Pennsylvania Avenue.
I, William Jefferson Clinton.
Bill Clinton was pro-abortion rights. George W. Bush is opposed to abortion. A highlight of last year's anti-abortion protest in Washington was the picketing of the local Planned Parenthood office. On this year's anniversary of Roe v. Wade, thousands of anti-abortion demonstrators marched up Constitution Avenue to the Supreme Court, and a personal message from the president was read at their rally.
We have a new president. It's occupied by a new man who shares our belief that human life is sacred.
On the first business day of his administration, Bush reversed an executive order issued by Clinton during his first week. Taxpayer funds can no longer be given to international family planning organizations which promote abortion in this country or abroad. Abortion rights supporters call the reversal unfair.
Not a penny of this money goes to abortion. 0 funds for abortion. It is about access to contraception.
the abortion issue hangs over John Ashcroft, the president's yet-to-be-confirmed choice for Attorney General, who has assured senators he will enforce the law even though he disagrees with it.
Will you maintain the Department of Justice's task force on violence against health care providers and give it the resources it needs to continue?
I will maintain such task forces and provide them with the kind of resources that they need in order to make sure that we don't impair the constitutional right of women to access reproductive health services.
During his confirmation hearings, Health and Human Services Secretary Tommy Thompson indicated he favored a review of the FDA's approval of the so-called morning after pill, RU 486.
As far as RU 486, I think my role as secretary is to judge all drugs and see how safe they are, and to review the safety of those drugs through my FDA administrator.
In its first days, the Bush administration has put abortion rights advocates on notice.
I had hoped he wouldn't be so aggressive so early on in assaulting reproductive rights of women, but he has been.
With Republicans controlling both houses of Congress as well as the White House, there could be other changes.
On this vote, the ayes are 64.
President Clinton twice vetoed legislation passed by Congress that would ban late-term abortion, those conducted between the 23rd and 28th week of pregnancy. Clinton said the bill should have included an exception that would allow the procedure to save the life of the mother. During the fall campaign, Bush said he would sign the ban Clinton vetoed.
I believe banning partial birth abortion would be a positive step toward reducing the number of abortions in America.
And abortion opponents say they are hopeful President Bush will take 2 additional steps: banning personally funded abortions at overseas military hospitals and ending federal funding for fetal tissue research.
I believe we can find stem cells from fetuses that died a natural death, but I do not support research from aborted fetuses.
Over the years, public opinion surveys have indicated a narrow majority of Americans believe abortion should be legal, but only under certain circumstances. A poll by the Gallup organization out this week reinforces that. 34% said laws should be made stricter. 17% favored fewer restrictions. And 46% said laws should be kept as they are. Virginia Cha, NBC News, New York.
A program note now. The Bush agenda is among the topics tomorrow on NBC's Meet the Press. Vice President Dick Cheney and Senator Joseph Lieberman are among Tim Russert's guests. And when we continue, word that Serbia's former leader may soon be under arrest.
When you see a police line, what goes through your mind? You know it's a sign of violence. You hope it's no one you know. Don't ignore the signs when a kid you know might be heading for trouble. Are they being cruel to animals, suddenly interested in weapons, or showing uncontrolled anger? If this sounds familiar, you need to step in and get this kid some help. When it comes to the signs of violence, a kid's life could be on the line.
Take it from the top, boys. 1, 2, 3, go!
There is a better way to have fun with history.
Come on, Louie. Focus, man.
Visit americaslibrary.gov. Log on, play around, learn something.
Present for you, Fido, for that nice new car that won't go. And all your car guy says is, I don't know. It's the new Consumer Action Handbook, free from the government. Listen, with this puffer, you'll get repairs repaired, wrongs righted. Look, companies, government agencies, names, numbers. Now, nobody will treat you like a dog. Call for yours toll-free, 1-888-8-PUEBLO, or log on. It's a consumer's new best friend.
Did you know that hearing loss is our nation's #1 birth defect? A simple test given to newborn babies can avoid years of learning delays from undiagnosed hearing loss. Unbelievably, 22 babies a day leave the hospital deaf or with serious hearing loss, and their parents don't know. Hello, I'm Florence Henderson. As a TV and real-life mom who has experienced hearing loss, please join me and urge all new parents to have their babies hearing tested at birth.
What do these people have in common? Albert Einstein, Wynton Marsalis, Madeleine Albright, Chris Christopherson, George Washington Carver, D.H. Lawrence, Maya Angelou, Plato, Sting. I'll tell you what they have in common. Fame, brains, and they were all teachers. So here's to everyone who can and does teach. Maybe it's for you.
To Yugoslavia now, and growing signs that Slobodan Milosevic, an indicted war criminal, may be running out of options. Our report from NBC's Ron Allen.
Slobodan Milosevic lives in this Belgrade house under tight surveillance, armed guards on patrol outside. Now, as a reform government takes power, there's a growing belief the deposed strongman's days as a free man could be numbered.
I think that he will be arrested relatively soon, charged and probably put on trial for electoral fraud, corruption, and maybe even war crimes, but within Serbia.
That falls short of what the U.S. and its allies want. Milosevic on trial at the International War Crimes Tribunal at The Hague, facing charges of crimes against humanity for orchestrating the killing during the war in Kosovo. The tribunal's chief prosecutor, during a visit this past week, tried to persuade Yugoslavia's new leaders to respect the court's indictments. But she met crowds of demonstrators, some throwing eggs at her car, and she hit a stone wall in her meetings with the newly elected president, Vojislav Koštunica.
I must say that I was surprised that my meeting with President Koštunica on Tuesday did not lead to any meaningful dialogue.
Zoran Pajic, a Yugoslav attorney, says the new president is still deciding how much he wants to cooperate with the U.S. and its allies.
He appears to be extremely hesitant, not only on this, but on many other issues regarding the role or the position of Yugoslavia in the international community.
Handing over Milosevic could bring significant political and economic rewards to Yugoslavia, still suffering from a decade of war and sanctions. But many of the country's new leaders believe the international court is biased against them, and they don't face a huge public outcry to hand over Milosevic.
I think it's still the case that the vast majority of Serbs still don't understand the enormity of the crimes that were committed in their name.
For now, it seems the new government thinks it has more to gain by prosecuting Milosevic at home, where a prolonged legal case would also give him more protection from international justice. Ron Allen, NBC News.
185 miles above the Earth today, a fateful encounter for Russia's Mir space station, which is nearing the end of a 15-year voyage. With Mission Control watching closely, the unmanned cargo ship, which will push Mir out of orbit and back to Earth, docked with the station. The maneuver was described as flawless. The tentative date for the Mir's fiery dive into the Pacific Ocean is March 6th, but Russians say that date could change. The status of Pluto is up in the air tonight. One of America's leading science museums in New York City has suggested that Pluto might be considered a lump of ice instead of a planet. Most astronomers dispute the idea that Pluto should be demoted. When compared to the other 8 planets in our solar system, Pluto is distinctive. 3.7 billion miles from the sun, it has a tilted orbit, and its composition is similar to comets. From Oregon tonight, word of a fatal traffic accident which caused a major oil spill in the environmentally fragile Yaquina River in a remote part of that state. When a tanker truck overturned on a highway near the town of Toledo, 6,000 gallons of thick bunker oil and 100 gallons of diesel fuel were released. The Yaquina River is home to several species of endangered salmon and steelhead. The spill has traveled about 6 miles, and authorities believe they now have it contained. When NBC Nightly News continues in a moment, an off-season assignment for the hurricane hunters.
Tuesday on an all-new Frasier, meet the bad boys of mechanic school.
We're not in trouble. Whoa. We are trouble.
You flunk.
But what are we going to tell our dad and my girlfriend?
Yeah, they're bad. Then it's TV's newest hit, Three Sisters.
I got your old baby crib out of the garage. I'm going to give it the best.
Annie got stuck between the slats for like 5 hours. Don't you remember we had to butter her head to get her out?
You kids and your therapy. It was fun at the time.
All new must-see TV with Third Rock and Dag, Frasier and Three Sisters, Tuesday.
NBC Wednesday is the night we come together for great television.
I serve at the pleasure of the president.
Nothing like surrounding yourself with the best and the brightest.
It's the night of the Emmy-winning shows The West Wing and Law & Order. And now, Ed, the People's Choice Award winner for Favorite New Comedy, joins this prestigious night.
I own a bowling alley. I am a lawyer. Two separate things.
Now, NBC Wednesday has viewers and critics raving, calling it appointment TV and the best top-to-bottom night of primetime television.
I love it when it all comes together.
And TV Guide calls it a night to treasure.
That wasn't just a kiss.
That was a moment.
You bet it was.
Now, NBC Wednesday is a full night of must-see TV with 3 great dramas, Ed, The West Wing, and Law & Order, all on NBC Wednesday. The quality shows on NBC. An NBC original movie event, a U.S. soldier, a Middle Eastern princess.
Our lives are sacred.
The most dangerous thing they could do was fall in love.
If she tries to leave here, we'll kill her.
He is an American. Love him and he loves me.
The real-life love affair that captured a world of attention.
What if I can't go?
I'll wait for you.
The Princess and the Marine, NBC Sunday in 3 weeks.
Finally tonight, learning the anatomy of Pacific storms. High-tech tools normally used in the Caribbean are now at work out west to issue early warnings about potentially dangerous weather systems. Here's NBC's Dan Lothian.
A new mission for the hurricane hunter during the off-season.
Looks like a pretty good band of rain coming on shore up ahead.
Chasing storms forming in the vast Pacific Ocean.
Winter storms affect the West Coast in many ways, and yet they're very difficult to predict because of their oceanic origin.
Which is why the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration and the Navy are trying to improve forecasting and understanding of violent West Coast storms.
To be able to really look at the storms offshore and get a better feel for the intensity of the storms.
So, for the first time, the P-3 aircraft used on the East Coast to fly into the eye of a hurricane will instead be doing sharp dives and steep climbs offshore from California to Washington State. Scientists releasing weather measuring instruments.
Okay, flight, looks like that was a good drop.
Scanning with multiple radars, and with the aid of a new satellite communication system, sending back near real-time information.
Precipitation, winds, and various other weather parameters that are of great interest to many weather users.
Then that next rain chance,
such as local forecasters always trying to be accurate, and emergency crews bracing for impact.
It will greatly help us in working with the citizens of California to save lives and property.
The so-called PackJet program is for now a 6-week working experiment. NBC News on board for the first of 16 missions, 7 hours in the air gathering data, already being called valuable.
We'll simply know better what's coming.
Information that could lessen the blow of the next big storm headed to the Golden State or the Pacific Northwest. Dan Lothian, NBC News, Los Angeles.
And that is NBC Nightly News for this Saturday. Thanks for watching. I'm John Siegenthaler in New York, and I'll see you right back here tomorrow night.
NBC News, America's news leader.
Hey, Bill, log on to CNBC.com and you can drive away in this Audi TT or win thousands of other prizes instantly. Click the ticker and win at CNBC.com.
Turn to Nancy Francis on Northwest News Channel 8.